All right, here's my video for part 2 of the exam, talking about each class period and what I learned. So the first one was the introduction, and I just learned from that there is the golden ticket, that we can be happy and intrinsically motivated by our jobs and be competent at them. And I thought it was a myth before, but now I know that it's real. The second class period was positive psychology, and I realized from that we can have happiness now and in the future, and that we can, by using signature strengths, that we can be happy now and in time to come. Next class period was about flourishing, and I learned more about my signature strengths, and I learned that some of mine are appreciation of beauty, love of learning, and spirituality. And I loved this quote that said, "Other people are the best antidote to the downs of life and the single most reliable up." The next class period was about achieving authentic happiness. And one of the things that stuck out to me was responding to others in active and constructive ways so as to help them glean more happiness from that. And I also liked the section about forgiving and letting go of hate and just negative feelings. Then the next class period was at the how of happiness. And one of my favorite parts I learned from that was just learning how to savor experiences that I have, that are the positive and good ones. And the other thing was being more present in my day and in my life. And that, which is part of savoring, but just being in the here and now and not being distracted by the future or the past. The next section was Positivity and Love 2.0, and I think what stuck with me the most about that is that positivity broadens and builds, and that negativity is okay and it's normal to have those negative feelings, and it's not taboo, and when we see it that way, it won't be as overwhelming. And with positivity resonance, just connecting with another human being and sharing with each other those feelings towards one another, or positive feelings. I thought that was a really interesting perspective. Next section was for flow, and it was interesting to learn about it from a scientific perspective and its different elements. And I learned especially that it's important to balance the competency and the challenge of a task in order to achieve the flow state. So the next class period is about meaning and achievement, and I learned that having a happy life doesn't necessarily equate to having a meaningful life, and that meaning is so important. I thought it was interesting that suicide rates coincided more with a level of meaning a person has than the level of happiness that they have. And so it's important to have that belonging and that purpose to have a meaningful life. The next class period was happiest places. So it was interesting to see what made communities and places happier than others. And what I took away from that was that it's having that secure feeling and trust in a community and involvement in that community makes a place a lot more happy. And I liked the inclusive design concept we learned, and just having more empathy for people and designing for one and extending that to many. I thought that was a really cool concept. The next section was why we do what we do. So learning about our motivations and whether they're extrinsic or intrinsic. And I thought it was interesting to see how intrinsic motivation is so much better for learning and creativity and problem solving. So it made me want to be more intrinsically motivated in my life. And the next class period was about how we could do that with the self-determination theory. And so there were 3 things that we learned about that would lead us to having autonomous motivation, which were competency, autonomy, and relatedness. And so having an increase in those things helps us to be more intrinsically motivated, which I really liked, as well as to have less external rewards and punishments. The next section was about time famine and how there's a lot of things that can steal our time. I learned about time crunches and time deepening and all those things that we try to do to save time in our lives. But really, if we're not intentional about pausing in our lives and taking time to relax and recuperate, then our time will be taken up by media and so many distractions, which goes along with the next class period, taking back our time. Like I said, we need to take time to be still and to rest and just have realistic expectations for our time and what we can accomplish. And the next section was building a good life in the digital age. So I recognize how overconnectedness can affect me and that I need to take time to be alone or to just disconnect from the world and kind of recover that way, create space for myself. Next section is intentional families, and I learned the power of rituals from this section, and that it helps us can help a family to have an identity and to connect and to deepen their love so that they don't drift apart like the entropic family we discussed. And that goes along with the next class period, family rituals. I found it helpful to learn of the different methods to introduce rituals, which were the indirect, direct, and the discovery methods. The next section was The Last Child in the Woods, and I just learned that the effect of outdoor play is incredible on your mental health, super good for you. And I moved to Blanding, a small city in Utah, during my high school years, and we were outdoors a lot more at that time, and I saw how it helped me with my mental health, so I loved that section. The next section, it was experience economy and staging, and it was interesting to see that people are more interested in experiences than products, and it was awesome to learn the theme method of creating experiences for people, theming the experience and giving memorabilia, engaging the five senses, all those things was awesome. And the next section was fostering empathy, and I thought this was such a cool section. Learning how to see other people as people and not as objects, and to really look at them as a person with desires and feelings just like I have. I loved that. Which goes into the next class period that we had, which was design thinking. And here I learned how to grow in my creative confidence, that I really can come up with lots of ideas. And also just having a bias towards action and just acting and building and creating to help people, just having human-centered focus in helping people and in myself creating a good life. And so the next section was about designing your life, the introduction. And I liked the learning about that your degree determines your career is a dysfunctional belief. And helped me to see that life design is about what I'm going to do next, and it's not what I choose to do right now isn't a permanent decision, and that I can always create a life that I love and keep improving my life, building forward like we talked about. The next section was designing your life using wayfinding and Odyssey, and that helped me see how there's different me's inside me, and that there's lots of different ways my life could go, and lots of different options for me right now, and it just helped me feel less pressured in the direction that I had to go for my life. The next section was designing your life using prototyping, and I thought this was super cool just to have experiences and conversations that would help us sneak up on the future and create a life for ourselves that would make us happy and help us find the most meaning, and just doing and being able to use that to figure out where I want to go with my life without having to commit and be all in and then find out it wasn't what I really wanted. And then the last class period was designing your life by choosing happiness. And there was a lot of things I learned from this last one, such as failure immunity and just reframing failures so that they aren't things that hold me back, but actually propel me forward and help me learn and do better in the future so that I can succeed. And also just by eliminating too many options so I'm not paralyzed by them all, but that I can just let go of the other ones and move on and just keep pressing forward so I can progress in my life. So that's all my class periods, and thanks for all you guys do.